In this training, I'm going to show you how you can recover from chronic fatigue syndrome and get healthy in the next 6 to 12 months' time. In this training, you will learn the exact steps thousands of people from over 62 countries have done to recover from chronic fatigue syndrome in a rough time frame of around 6 to 12 months. You don't have to search for quick fixes. You don't have to try weird, wacky alternative therapies. And you don't even need to do CBT or graded exercise therapy to do this. And you certainly don't need to buy the next technological gadget on the internet to improve your health. You might have been told that chronic fatigue syndrome is a lifelong illness, and that is certainly not true. And you certainly don't have to deal with your symptoms for life. I'm going to show you real stories of real people just like you in a moment who have gotten their life back. And I know it's hard to believe. You're probably thinking, oh, this sounds too good to be true. Surely not. Surely, this is just a scam. And I can understand if you feel like it does sound like a scam, particularly if you haven't heard of my name before or our program before. And my name is Toby Morrison. I'm the founder of CFS Health, and I've been helping people with chronic fatigue syndrome for almost over 2 decades now. And over this time, I've watched and documented a lot of themes and patterns that people have actually done to get their life back. And understandably, with the amount of ridiculous claims there are on the internet, particularly of these people telling you that you can get better in 1 day or 1 week, or if you take this magic pill, all your problems are going to go away. And so I can totally understand if you're feeling hesitant. All I ask for you to do is just to sit here and watch this training, because in about 5 minutes' time, your mind is about to be blown. You are literally about to see and witness real people who struggle just like you get their life back. And I'm talking about severe cases where they couldn't leave their house. They were struggling with brain fog, muscle aches and pain, extreme fatigue and lethargy, and so many more symptoms. And these people actually were probably like you. They were skeptical. They didn't think it was possible. And after I showed them the framework, they realized, wow, this makes total sense. And so I'm going to take you through the 3 key steps that all of these people did to get their lives back, and you can actually do the same as well. This is not an overnight cure or quick fix. This is a pathway and a recovery process that does take time. And it has 3 steps and stages that I'm going to cover today. This is the exact process that I actually went through in my own recovery over 2 decades ago. But it's also what thousands of other people have done and succeeded with. Just like Tara Himes from USA. Tara, when she joined, she had already spent $30,000 on treatments that did not work. She was bouncing from doctor to doctor. She was severely underweight and deconditioned. And you can see in this photo, this is about 3 months into the program. Her coloration in her skin isn't that great. She's certainly underweight here. And while she's not at her worst in this photo, she's certainly not at her best. She was a single mum. She could barely look after herself, let alone her little child. And within a year and a half, this is Tara in Cancun, traveling with her daughter, having a holiday and time of her life. Now, previously, she had to use a wheelchair to get around. On this holiday, no more wheelchair was needed. She actually did a post in our free group recently, and you can see the before and afters, and she writes here, just a little bit of inspiration. You can get better. She says, after trying everything, supplements, medication, doctor after doctor, vitamin infusions and therapy, etc., and thousands of dollars later, I just wanted to figure out how I could get better quickly. I learned that little by little equals a lot, and life does get better. I'm so grateful I'm no longer stuck in bed and unable to live life. I was missing out on my daughter's childhood, and now she and I are living it up because I know the value of what being healthy truly is. I feel like every day that I'm healthy is a blessing, and every activity that I get to do is with freedom. It was a long road to recovery and well worth every moment. Much love, support, and kindness to all of you on this journey. There's a picture of her in 2021 where you can just see how unwell she was, curled up in bed and just suffering. And this is her and her daughter now. This is a few weeks ago taken. It's just so sweet. You can see how happy her daughter is on that right-hand photo. And it's just so amazing to watch people. I got to witness Tara's journey, her entire journey. So it was just unbelievable. Same thing with this lady here, Sue from UK. In 2021, she was in a wheelchair. She'd been sick for over 20 years. She was told that, older people just don't get better. Again, it's a myth on the internet that is certainly not true. We've seen so many people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s improve their health and start living again. You can see in March 2022, there was no wheelchair. In fact, she looked very stylish in this photo, and she walked 18 minutes. Fast forward another couple of months, and here is Sue looking healthy and happy and able to do 45 minutes of walking without feeling any worse. In fact, not going backwards, no PEM, no crashes, and not struggling. She was able to go to her son's rugby game for the first time in years, and you can see how happy she was and proud of her son. Pretty damn amazing. And then in May 2022, she was able to go to the Ed Sheeran concert and have a great time and not have a wheelchair. And you can see how healthy Sue is in this photo. It's literally like looking at a different person from when she was in a wheelchair, where she was really grey. She was still smiling, but you can tell she was suffering. And she's not suffering anymore. She is 100% recovered and living her life to the fullest. Again, here's another patient that we worked with. This is Emily from Australia. When Emily came to us, she was actually in and out of hospital. That's how bad she was. And she couldn't get the right practical help. She was kind of just going around in circles and just hoping that a doctor would fix her. When she enrolled in Mentorship 3.0, it was hard for her. She nothing worked straight away. We had to make sure we implemented the 3 steps correctly. But fast forward over a year and a half later, this is Emily today. She's healthy. She's happy. She's studying allied health now to become an allied health assistant, which is just incredible in and of itself. And she did this post recently in our private members group, and I asked Emily if it was okay if we shared it, and she said absolutely. And so she says here, "I'm very, very sad to be leaving this program, but I'm also the happiest I've ever been. I'm living my life again. I joined at the end of 2021, very sick, having spent the year in and out of hospital, bedbound with absolutely no idea what was going on with my body and a nervous system that was stuck in flight or fight. It all clicked just over a year ago after putting in the hard work, and within the last year alone, I've started driving again. I've resumed studies as an allied health assistant, and I've been overseas twice to Bali and New Zealand." She says here she's been to Queensland, she's been to Adelaide, as well as getting back into exercise, cooking, and many social activities. She has plans to move to a different city next year with her friends, and she's so grateful for this program. Without it, I would not have my life back, she says. I'm in such a great place right now, and I'm enjoying every moment. Thank you so much, Toby and the entire team. Here are some photos of the last few months. So, this is her celebrating her 21st birthday. And you can just see how healthy she is and happy. This is the same girl that was literally in bed, felt like she was going to give up on life. And it's just powerful to see. And this isn't, just 3 stories. There's literally thousands of these stories. I've just chosen a few because I want to make sure I get to the training. Here's just a few more screenshots of people who have followed these 3 steps in the pathway and process of recovery. This is an 8-month mark. 4-mark progress photo, and you can see the difference in the face and the coloration and the life that is coming back into his body. Unbelievable. This is Julie. She's only been working with us for a few months, and you can already see the difference in how pale and fatigued she looked in the left-hand photo, and this is her 3 months later, and she says, "I'm realizing I've had a huge amount of progress in both how I feel mentally and physically and what I can do consistently each day." Unbelievable. This is Charlie. Charlie was going on a hike and went on a holiday to Greece with her husband, and she's fully recovered now. And, for 2 years, by the way, she's like a mum of like 5 kids total, shared family. And she was a nurse. She worked in mental health, and she really suffered for a long time. And so she's just such an amazing woman. They all are. All these people are just incredible. This was Heidi Hagen. I think Heidi's from Norway or Sweden. Sorry, Heidi, if I got that wrong. Heidi couldn't do any exercise at all. It would make her feel really worse. And 9 months in after following the process, she's back in the gym training. And again, look how healthy she is. A picture says 1,000 words, and it really, truly does. Here's another photo of a different Sue. This one's from UK. And you can see just after a few months how much of a difference just her energy in her eyes and her face is coming back. And again, it's a brilliant sign of well-being. We've got Michelle here. This lady went from being housebound, struggling with day-to-day life, and to be honest, feeling like giving up. And now she runs her own Pilates studio. She runs her own business in Melbourne, Australia, I think it is. And this is Lauren Giammarco from USA, New York, on a hike. And again, this lady had fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome and is now fully recovered. In fact, she wrote a book recently, which was pretty amazing. This is Wilma playing golf again. I don't think she hit a hole-in-one that day, but, imagine being able to imagine being told that you can't do anything and feeling like you have to give up all your hobbies, and then knowing that over time, if you do the right things at the right time, you can get back to doing what you love. And you can see the smile says it all on Wilma's face there. And this is Claudia. Claudia lives in Europe, as you can see, the Alps in the background, and was able to climb a mountain, 2,000 meters, and no fear of setback, and feeling great. And here's just some photos of random snaps of people coming up to me in the street. This is me at my local cafe with another past member, who said, "Oh my God, are you Toby Morrison?" She said, "You changed my life. When I first started your program, I could not leave the house, and now I'm fully well and healthy." And her name's Felicity. She did a success interview recently for us, and she's an artist, and she's amazing. And her husband was lovely as well. It was great to meet them in person. And this is another guy. I was on a boat with a friend for lunch, and this guy came up to me and he said, "Are you Toby Morrison?" I said, "I am." And he said, "Dude, you saved my life." And I said, "How did I save your life?" He said, "I did your program in 2017. He said, and he almost started crying. And he said, "Honestly, Toby, you literally saved my life." And I said, "No, I didn't save your life. You saved your life. I just taught you how to do it." And you can see he said, "I can drink alcohol again. I can go out with my wife. I can do whatever I want. I work full time." And he's, again, healthy and well. And then even at restaurants, when I go out for dinner sometimes, I was at a Japanese restaurant on a holiday, and this girl came up to me, Jackie, and she said, "Toby, I did your program in 2014. I'm now working full time. I run." I think she did a fun run, and it was lovely to meet her and her boyfriend as well. And so, just these moments of pure gratitude. This is me with our eldest member of CFS Health ever, Janet Krabby from Hawaii. And I was in Hawaii for a conference, and I made sure that I visited her and her late husband, Eric, who was 95 at the time. And you can see how healthy and well Janet looks for an 86-year-old woman. Pretty incredible for someone who was told that, life can't get better. And all these people are just like you. They're struggling. They were struggling with brain fog. They struggled with fatigue, muscle aches and pains, lethargy, swollen glands, flu-like symptoms, cognitive problems, gut issues, dizziness, secondary anxiety and secondary depression, and so much more. We could write a whole list of symptoms that I'm sure you are or have experienced. And here's the cool thing. They all once believed that they actually couldn't get better. They were skeptical, and they didn't know it was possible. The cool thing is they followed the process regardless. They said, "You know what? I'm done with doing this alone. I'm done with being in isolation. I need a proper plan to follow." And that's what they did. And now their lives are completely different, as you can see from all their smiling faces. Here's the thing. I'm going to teach you exactly the 3 steps in a moment. I'm going to show you a key core concept right now. As your health improves, your symptoms start to go down. And I'm going to show you why 70% of people don't get better and why they stay stuck for a very long time. Before I do that, I need to tell you what to stop doing first so you can start doing the right things. There's no point me telling everything you need to do when you're not doing some of the things you need to stop first. I think you probably know by now that you need to stop the search. Your diagnosis is not your end destination, but you need to stop looking in the wrong places to get better. And what I mean by that is your doctor cannot cure you of chronic fatigue syndrome. It doesn't work like that. And it's really tough because, we've been brought up to believe that doctors are supposed to give us a pill when we get sick. And it doesn't work like that for chronic fatigue syndrome. Chronic fatigue syndrome literally affects every aspect of your brain and your body. It affects every aspect of your life. And so we must have a holistic approach to reverse engineer the problems that chronic fatigue syndrome has caused. You need to stop searching in the medical desert. You might be feeling totally alone and isolated right now. You might be thinking, there's no one that can help me. And that's probably true. There's not many people that can give you practical help, particularly from a doctor, because the doctor's job is not to give you a proper practical plan to help you get healthy and live again. They don't have time. They're not trained in this, and it's not their job to do, right? Most doctors only have 15-minute appointments. As you've seen already, it takes months and months of doing the right things to get healthy and start living again. And there's many, many steps along the way, which I'm going to show you. And so if you do want to stop this search, you're probably feeling like every time you try something new, you have this kind of feeling of hope. And then you move over to the search and you start Googling the next cure and what am I going to take next and this supplement and that pill and this weird wacky thing. And so you have this hope and you start searching, and then you have this feeling of trepidation. Is this going to work? Is this not going to work? You almost pray. You pray to God, please, please, please make this work. And what happens is after a week or two of trying it, you hit the despair button. And you just feel absolutely horrible because it hasn't worked, and you feel deflated and upset and angry. And then a few months later, you do the same cycle again and you get nowhere. On the other hand, I said to you before, there's about 70% of people get stuck with their recovery. And if you imagine this is the tip of the iceberg, 70% of people are managing their symptoms. They've been told that you have to manage your symptoms for the rest of your life. Either that, or you've been searching for quick fixes. And the problem with this is it's a very shallow conversation of managing your symptoms, and that's all there is. Now, the problem is it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You've either been told that chronic fatigue syndrome is not real and what you're living or experiencing is made up in your head, which is not true. What you're going through is 100% real. But the second thing is, most of the advice out there is to look for quick fix remedies and manage your symptoms. And again, it is a really shallow conversation and it doesn't really lead you anywhere, but keeps you stuck with where you're at. At CFS Health, we've developed and realized that there are 3 key outcomes that have to happen for recovery to work. And really, this is a deeper conversation here. Number 1, you must know it's possible for you to get better. And you might think, well, why does that matter, Toby? It matters because if you don't know it's possible or you don't believe it's possible for you to get better, what are you going to do? You're not going to do anything. You're going to live in misery. You're going to sit in misery. You're going to feel very upset and disappointed with yourself and with the world. And you will not do the actions and behaviors that are required 2 start to get better. So possibility, knowing that it's possible to get better, which you've just seen above, proof, is important to know and understand. It's important to know that it's possible to get better. Once you do that, step 2, outcome, is every single person who's recovered from chronic fatigue syndrome followed a pathway. They followed a pathway and a process and a plan that helped them get better. And then thirdly, they knew how to make progress appropriately. If you think about it, most people aren't taught how to make progress properly, and so they don't progress at all. They stay stuck. And you might think, well, Toby, that's great. Good, helpful. It makes sense. I get that. How do I do it? I'm going to show you in a moment. And that is the deeper conversation. But those 3 key outcomes create the biggest outcome of them all. And ultimately, at CFS Health, there is no limit. We truly believe that the people that don't give up truly deserve to start living again. And here's what's crazy. As this process starts to happen and filter down, guess what happens at the top? As you get healthier and stronger, guess what starts to not exist anymore? Your symptoms. They're no longer there. Because as health goes up, symptoms go down. And so that's the craziest part about this whole thing, is that you don't even need to manage your symptoms. You just need to get healthy and have a health-focused solution process, which automatically will eliminate the symptoms over time. It's pretty powerful. And so we need to understand the recipe for chronic fatigue syndrome has really deconstructed all the functionality of your brain and your body and your life. And so how we do this is we reverse what chronic fatigue syndrome has done to your brain and body. If you think about it, we really need to look at the brain and body and the body-brain processes and ultimately recondition that completely. Which means that we must have a holistic approach for recovery, and we must recondition the brain and the body appropriately. It's never just one thing. Not one person who I showed you before has said, oh my God, it was just this one thing. No, it was everything. I'm going to show you how to reverse engineer this entire recovery process. And it's important to remember it's not what you do, but how you do it that matters. Step 1, the restore stage. You'll see a common word called baseline that we talk a lot about at CFS Health. The biggest problem that most people have when it comes to chronic fatigue syndrome is the push-crash cycle, where as soon as you have energy, you just push yourself beyond your means, you get excited, you get carried away, and then you come crashing down and you feel absolutely horrible. We call this redlining. And so if you imagine you're starting here, let's try this. You're going to start here. And as soon as you have a little bit of energy, what happens is you push yourself with all your energy that you've got up to the top here, and then you come crashing down. And once you go down past that line, we call this the valley of death. And we call it the valley of death because it kind of feels like it. This is when your symptoms become on fire, where you feel absolutely horrible. And it takes days, weeks, or months to get back to your original baseline. Now, the problem is you haven't learnt your lesson. And so you push yourself again. And you feel horrible within days. And then you feel horrible for weeks on end. And so there's this vicious cycle of this up and down yo-yo experience that we kind of don't want. And so we really, in order to stabilize and restore energy, we need to stop the yo-yos like this, right? A lot of people, and you're probably one of them, you've tried a million different things and you haven't got anywhere. One of the biggest reasons is because you don't have a baseline. You must end the push-crash cycle. Instead, what we want is something a little bit more consistent. Your baseline is you being able to do what you can currently do without feeling any worse than you currently feel. Once we start to focus on building your capacity, what's going to happen is your brain and your body can start to adapt to the stimulus appropriately. And the great thing is it starts to look a little bit like this. And over weeks and months, you start to make significant progress. Now, the great thing is there's maintenance periods and progress periods, and I'm going to walk you through that in a moment on how that looks. But you can see the smoothness of this baseline. There's no crashes, there's no pushing and crashing. There's energy in and there's energy out activities that are building capacity and allowing the brain and body to adapt appropriately. There's a few things you need to do. Number one, you need to restore energy in your body, right? You're depleted right now. Everything, if you think about it, is affected. And if we think about you as a whole, chronic fatigue syndrome affects everything. It affects your sleep. It affects your mood. It affects your digestive health. It affects your physical body, your immune system, your nervous system, your mitochondria, your mindset, your emotional well-being. It affects everything. Your energy output and input. And that's not all of them, by the way. This is just a few, and I'm sure you can relate to this. And so baseline is the key fundamental to start reversing this. This will help you improve your sleep. This will help you stop pushing and crashing, which will then improve your mood. This will also calm the nervous system down, which will improve your digestive health. This will then improve your physical health. Your immune system will start to work better. Your mitochondria cells will start to fire better. Your mindset will be better. Your emotional well-being and balance will be better. And your energy input and output is going to be way higher. And so if we look over here, we need to stop the push-crash cycle, but we need to do that to create stability. From stability, you can then build a foundation. And once you build a foundation, you literally can start to restore energy in your body, which will help you recondition your brain and body appropriately. The great thing is, as energy comes back, we can start you progressing appropriately. A couple of things you need to factor in. You need to factor in sleep, nutrition, stress, energy in and energy out activities, and also lifestyle. We're going to move to phase 2. Before I tell you what is in phase 2, we need to have a conversation around mindset. And step 2 is the re-strengthen phase. Step 1 is restore. We need to restore energy first before we start to progress. Step 2 is about progression. But we need to have this conversation first. New life or old life? So many people stay stuck because they don't accept where they're at. And the problem is you think accepting is giving up. But accepting is not resignation. It's actually the starting point of your recovery. Once you accept your current reality, you can change it. But if you are in denial or you don't accept your current situation, you cannot change it. And so none of this really matters until we get to this point of, you know what, I need to change something. I don't love what's going on. You don't have to love it. But if you can accept it, we can then create a plan for you with where you're at so we can move you forwards. So are you ready to build your new life? Here's the deal. You don't go back to your old life. A lot of people want to go back to their old life, but then a lot of them are scared to go back to their old life. And so our job is to help you build a new life that is way more fulfilling than the old one anyway. This is a prerequisite to get better, to fully be ready to stop the search and to check your beliefs around what's possible. Again, if you don't believe it's possible for you to get better, you're not going to do the actions and behaviors that are required to rebuild and get your health and life back. And as I said before, you want to start building your new life. This is the recovery readiness model, and timing matters. So if you think about it, there are 4 levels of recovery readiness. The first stage, which you might be in right now, is the giving up stage. And this is where you think there's no options, you feel like quitting, and you complain a lot. Like, life is unfair, and it is unfair. It sucks. What you're going through is horrible. When we move through this next level, there's a sense of fear and isolation that's going on here. You feel isolated, no one understands you, but you also feel a bunch of fear because you don't know what to do. The second stage is the hoping stage, and this is where I just hope something fixes me. I hope this doctor can cure me. I hope this pill that I take gets me better. In the hoping stage, you're feeling lost, you're guessing, and you're kind of just going around in circles. You're self-sabotaging, right? After that, you move to the seeking stage. And the seeking stage really is you're seeking external treatments to get you better. Here, you're coping, you're feeling consumed, and you're certainly feeling tested. You're fed up with trying more things. And I get it. I went through this myself. Pretty much every single person we've ever worked with went through this until they found CFS Health, and then everything changed. Lastly, the full green zone of recovery readiness is the owning stage. And this is the most powerful zone, and this is where the magic happens. This is where we realize that the truth is the body heals itself if you do the right things at the right time. And the key outcomes here is what happens when you start to own your recovery is there's an inner certainty that comes when you find what body wisdom truly is. When you start to do the right things at the right time, there's this inner certainty that comes. You become more self-led. You really start to own and make decisions for yourself, and the confidence in you starts to come back. And then you become the true you. You're really who you are, and you own who you are, and it feels really, really good. And so it's important for you to understand that there is a process to this, and it doesn't matter if you're in the giving up zone or the hoping stage. Don't worry, you will get to the owning stage with this awareness and knowing exactly what to do. So let's talk about maintenance and progress cycles. Re-strengthen stage. This is all about maintenance and progress cycles, which is building resilience in your brain and body. As you can see here, now we're ready to move into the implementation phase of progress and maintenance cycles to create more capacity in the brain and body whilst maintaining your health. So you can imagine these blocks are worth 2 to 4 weeks at a time, okay? And really, what's happening here is we're building your foundational health one step at a time, one maintenance block at a time. And so on and on and on, what we're really doing is cementing what your current baseline is for a minimum of 2 to 4 weeks, and then progressing that to the next step. Now, here's the deal. A lot of you want to get to the top, but you can't set the concrete at the top until you set the concrete down the bottom first, one step at a time. If you think about a building, they don't just pour concrete on all the steps at once. You pour the concrete on the first step, you solidify, and then you work from that step onto the next step. And just as one of our coaches at CFS Health says, Lauren Giammarco, she says, you can't get to the mountaintop in one step. You have to take the first step in front of you all the way up to the top of the mountain. And so here's the cool thing. Over 6 to 12 months, as you build your capacity and strength, what starts to happen is this kinetic chain response in the brain and the body, and it starts to link up and build solidarity. And we call this appropriate acceleration. And this is where we work on your physical output and your cognitive output mostly, okay? And the great thing is, this will lead to you living life again and feeling really, really good. Do you notice that there's no yo-yoing here? Zero, right? We have a plan, we stick to the plan, and we make sure we progress and maintain at the right times so we can move forward with our recovery. Now, progressional steps. It looks very much like this. We start here with your baseline, which you saw before, and then we build steps. And these steps in between are actually maintenance periods. And they last anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what's going on in your recovery and your life, and factoring in the external factors too. But the cool thing is, as you can see, it's an upward trend of progress. Most of you don't have a plan. Most of you are just going up and down like a yo-yo and getting absolutely nowhere. Instead, when you have a plan, you can really see how there's a method to this recovery process. It's simple, which it doesn't mean it's easy. And I want you to understand that. Simple doesn't mean easy. Simple can actually be really challenging. But what we're really focusing on here is your cognitive and physical capacity being built over time. Now, the cool thing is what we're going to do is, as we start to implement and move forwards with your progress, then we can start to integrate into life. And this is where the fun begins. Progressing into integration phase. This is where the fun begins in terms of getting back into the things that you love. Integrating into life can be the hardest part of recovery though. This is where we expand you on your capacity on all levels, physically, cognitively, emotionally, and spiritually. Creating a new life with new aligned values and goals. This is where you get to dream. This is where you get to think about, what do I want in my life? From my hobbies, my passions, my work, my studies, my relationships, my environment, where do I want to live, what do I want to be doing? And it's a really fun place to be, but without a plan and without help, it can be extremely overwhelming. You don't need to focus on recovery when you start to focus on integrating back into life. And here's the cool thing. We want you to get to the point where you're life and life integration focused versus recovery focused. It actually means that you're making progress. But it's really important that you factor in these 4 key areas of progress. They're either physical, cognitive, right? Which is really memory-based, cognitive output as well. Socializing, things of that nature, reading, working, screen time, things of that nature. And then emotional is really your boundaries, your emotional self, how you are regulating your emotions and really sensing your intuition and acting from a place of emotional intelligence for yourself. And then lastly, spiritual. You could insert, instead of spiritual, you could say it's personal development. And this is where we're really expanding ourselves of where we are and where we want to be in our lives and really developing and evolving as a human being. And it's undeniable that this is a part of progress and recovery that happens, whether you like it or not. What you've gone through is one of the hardest things you probably ever will go through. And it really deepens you as a human being. As you start to become healthy and start living again, life becomes the focus, as I said before. And that's a great thing. We need to celebrate that. In the integration phase, a few things need to happen. The healthy habits maintain. So everything that got you to this point, most of them will stay. Some of them don't need to anymore, but most of them will just become normal, healthy habits, right? Body wisdom is the key here. Knowing what to do and when to do it is really going to help you in any aspect of your life. A global focus on your future vision and North Star becomes present in lifestyle integration. A shift of focus towards life instead of recovery will start to happen, and you'll start to navigate and grow in your life, okay? And there's a thing that I always say, which is new level equals new devil. So every new level that you get to, there'll be new challenges, and that is okay. It's kind of like being on a map, but not having a compass. And a map with a compass is much easier to conquer, just like this photo here. Without a compass, it's like, where the hell am I going? And that's probably how you're feeling right now with your recovery. Just going, I don't even know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, how much to do it, how little to do it. Like, it's very, very overwhelming. And this is why I started this whole program and process almost over 2 decades ago, because it's exactly what I needed when I was going through this alone. At CFS Health, we've created a roadmap and a recovery map for you and have put together a custom compass that actually shows you the exact steps and the way of recovery so you can make this journey way easier. We've developed a model, and I'm not going to run through it all right now, but there's a couple of key concepts that you need to understand. The first one is the end goal is to start living again. It's not to eliminate symptoms. It's not to, stop feeling crap. At the end of the day, it's to start living again. That's what you truly want. The symptoms and the symptoms subsiding, that's just a natural process that will happen as you start living again. But as I showed you before, those 3 key outcomes we spoke about, which was possibility, pathway, and progress, those 3 intertwined is what's going to help you start living again. Okay? In order for that to happen, though, we need to go from complexity to calm first. We need to find your potential. We need to connect you with the right things. You need to learn the right frameworks and processes, and then you need to simplify. And when you do this, what's going to happen? It is going to take you from complexity to calm. You might be feeling so overwhelmed right now because there's just so much complexity going on because you don't know what to do. You haven't been connected with the right things, you haven't learnt the right frameworks, and you haven't simplified it to match it with where you're at right now. Once we do that, we move into patterns. We take you from suffering to stabilized. Once we see your patterns, we go, you know what? This is where you're at. This is what you need to do. This is what you don't need to do. Then we can start to make progress. But before that, we need to notice what's going on. We need to create a map for where you're at right now. And then we need to maintain that new map. The great thing is, that's going to create your pathway. Once you've created that, we move into the fun part. We take you from compromised to more capacity. And this is where purpose comes in. This is where that feeling of like, yes, I'm on track and this is moving me forwards. Once we align you with your new goals and where your focus is, you integrate that into your daily life, you get to expand it. And as you start to expand it, there's one thing that happens: progress. And that one bit of progress starts to help you start living again. And the cycle repeats itself over and over and over again. That's a very short overview of the CFS Health model. And there's a training inside our mentorship flagship program that literally goes for 25 minutes just on that. But I wanted to show you that just so it makes sense, right? You can't get to level 3 of progress if you haven't done level 1 and 2 first. And the cycle repeats itself as you start to expand, which is super cool. You're probably aware now that recovery is like a puzzle. And it's really important to put the right pieces of the puzzle in at the right time. As I've said here, recovery is truly a puzzle, and it's about putting the right pieces of energy and focus in your recovery at the right time to get the right results. The CFS Health model, as you saw before, has been formulated over the last 15 years to create a clear pathway and progress to get healthy and start living again. If this makes sense to you and you're like, yes, oh my God, this is what has been missing in my life and I need this, I'd like to invite you to get a step-by-step plan for you and your recovery so you can finally move forwards with confidence, have the ability to progress without concern, and have accountability and safety nets in place to catch you and help you move forwards with your recovery. Right now, we're offering recovery plan calls. You can click the link on this page and book in your personalized recovery plan call. With our recovery process and framework, it takes out the second guessing and the isolation and the unnecessary suffering that comes with recovery when you're trying to do this on your own. So if you'd like help with your recovery and an actual step-by-step plan on implementing what I've showed you today, simply click the form page right now. Fill out the application, book in a recovery plan call straight away as soon as you can. Spots are limited. So if you get on this page and you fill out the application and there's no booking times, it means that all the spots have been taken for this week. So please make sure that you book in the most available time in front of you. Make sure you select your own time zone. As I said before, we help people in 62 countries. So you are not alone in this. And of course, on that call, you'll have an option to get help with us so you can move forwards properly, and we'll hold your hand every step of the way to ensure that you are on track and you're doing the right things at the right time. If now's not the right time for you, we'll also send you some free resources as well. If you'd like more information and you're not someone who wants help right now with your recovery, you can check out our free baseline training below at cfshealth.com/baseline, which is a more in-depth overview of step 1, which I showed you before. As you can see, we need to restore the body, we need to re-strengthen the brain and the body, and then we need to integrate the brain and the body back into life, which is totally possible, like thousands of other people have done before you. I'm wishing you all the best. I will see you on the other side if you've booked a call, and we'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.